influence black voters in the state. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. Great news. Sunlux has the all-new Tesla Powerwall 3 in stock. It's ready and waiting for you when you go solar with Sunlux. Learn more at sunlux.com, sunlux.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Kawhi Leonard's return to the lineup last night was not enough to inspire a win for the Clippers against Dallas. The Clippers lost by 3. The best-of-7 playoff series is even at a game apiece. Luka Doncic had a game-high 32 points and 9 assists. The Clippers were fortunate to lose by only 3. They shot a season-low 36%. In his first game since March 31st, Kawhi played 35 minutes. He had 15 points and 7 rebounds. Kawhi's right knee seemed to hold up pretty well. The question is, will he be healthy for Game 3 Friday night in Dallas? Don't be surprised if Lakers coach Darvin Ham shakes up his starting lineup for Game 3 Thursday night against Denver. Rui Hachimura has been a non-factor in the first 2 games. Hachimura has made only 3 of 11 shots and has only 4 free throw attempts. For a guy playing 34 minutes a game, the Lakers need a lot more production from him. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, this year marks 10 years since Michael Brown Jr.'s life was violently cut short by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. We will talk about the long shadow of Ferguson and the myriad obstacles we still face when it comes to protecting and our children and improving their futures. We'll do that with Dr. Starsky Wilson, President and CEO of the Children's Defense Fund, who will join us today in hour 2. In our third hour,
didn't want her there. City Hall wants her there. It's the lawsuit from last year, all those wrongful arrests by Major Case Unit.
Yeah, that wasn't our fault, Captain.
Doesn't matter. The judge ordered us to hire an outside attorney for police oversight to observe your investigations for a year.
I know, but what am I supposed to do with this lady?
Let her observe. Her DOJ boss in Chicago thinks she's easily amused.
Yeah, well, she's easily amusing herself all over my crime scene.
Bob, it's a suicide. Just humor her. Tell her some old war stories. She'll get bored and move on.
Actor Wendell Pierce is busy these days. This brother is everywhere, but he joins us today for the hour, in hour 3, to talk about his new series, Ellsworth, and to celebrate, I suspect, his hometown, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, which kicks off, in fact, this week. Wendell Pierce today in hour 3. But in this first hour, 2 more conversations on the B side of this hour. International reparations activist Kamm Howard joins us for an update on reparations and his work in Congress. But we commence today's show with Atlantic staff writer Graeme Wood, who gives us an insider's view on the Middle East in his new book, The Way of the Strangers, Encounters with the Islamic State. Graeme Wood, good to have you on the program. How are you today, sir?
Delighted to be here. Nice to talk to you.
Good to have you on. Let me jump right in and make the most of our time. I want to start before I get into your text. Again, it's called The Way of the Strangers, Encounters with the Islamic State. Graeme, as I mentioned a moment ago, going to take us inside the Middle East and give us a view that you might not see from the outside. And certainly there is a different view on the inside than there is on the outside. So we'll let Graeme unpack that for us as we move forward. But I want to, again, commence this program talking about the news of the day. Again, these student protests, Graeme, as you've been following them, I've been following them across the country. They are growing. They are expanding. We mentioned yesterday on this program, there are now solidarity camps that students are establishing across various campuses. Columbia is still negotiating with students there to take these tents down or remove some of the tents. It is a developing story, but as I mentioned yesterday, the part about this story that's gaining traction for me is the way the students are tying these protests to a demand for disengagement with Israel when it comes to these arms deals that we have with them. Your thoughts as you've been watching these student protests?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not just a journalist, I'm an educator, including on one of the campuses that is being most roiled by these protests. That's Yale University.
Mm-hmm.
So I know students who are in the protests at this very minute and who have been making their voices heard. And, I think there's a lot of large institutions, legacy institutions like Yale, like Columbia, that just didn't realize how seriously students take this issue and really how much their opinions have changed over the years. It's been, I hate to say it, it's been decades since I was a student. And back then, there were certainly solidarity campaigns with the Palestinians, but they didn't have the momentum that they've got right now. And I think these universities are realizing a bit late that their students have gone beyond their own views, and they're going to have to, in the future, these students are going to be the donors, they're going to be the trustees, they're going to be the professors. And I think the professors of the present day, myself included, have to kind of get ready for that new generation and the new priorities they have.
Since, to your point, you're on the campus of Yale teaching there, tell me about your views, at least, on what you sense regarding the serious nature that these students take these protests. We'll talk about the opinions changing. I agree with you on that. There's no question about that, and that is a different conversation about what our government ultimately does when the opinions of the demos start to change on this particular policy and on this relationship. But why are students taking, to your mind, this issue so seriously?
Well, I think first of all, there's a lot more that one can see right now in terms of what war looks like. I've been a war correspondent in a number of different conflicts over the last 20, 30 years, and it's changed a lot. There are way more images that you can see of this war, and I think a lot of students are able to see that the bloodshed is, to say the least, lopsided. The Palestinians, there's so much more Palestinian death than there is Israeli death. And I think there were a lot of students who were, of course, shocked by what happened on October 7th, which was straightforwardly war crimes by Hamas attacking Israeli civilians. And their horror at that is matched and then exceeded by what they see on the Palestinian side. You can just turn on Al Jazeera, you can turn on your feed of social media, and you see children, you see clearly people who are non-combatants who are dead. And I think it's very easy and appropriate for people to be shocked by this, horrified, and to look for ways for that to change.
Yep.
That is ways that their activism can make a difference in that sphere.
Yep. When we come forward, I want to come to the other point you made, Graeme Wood, and that is this notion that opinions about this relationship, what many would describe as a cozy relationship between the U.S. and Israel, and that's putting it mildly, putting it gently and kindly. But opinions about that relationship are in fact changing, and I want to get your view on your view on the long-term impact of these views on this relationship changing in real time. We'll talk about that and then jump straight away into his book, The Way of the Strangers, Encounters with the Islamic State. Our guest is Graeme Wood, staff writer for The Atlantic. You're listening to him right now on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature Black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young Black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in Black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos, and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze fruit-on-the-go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit, hims.com/joy.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed with Graeme Wood, Atlantic staff writer and author of the book, The Way of the Strangers, Encounters with the Islamic State. We'll talk about that book in just a second. But Graeme, I want to continue just for another minute or two here, our conversation about these student protests, which are becoming hegemonic, it seems, on campuses all across this country. We talked a moment ago about why this issue is resonating in so many ways with this particular generation. And I get that, and more importantly, the Biden administration better get it. They better figure that out between now and November. On the other side, though, you raised this issue of these opinions changing clearly, and it's not just these students. I mean, these students are the ones who engaged on the front lines of these protests, but the data is pretty incontrovertible. that opinions about this relationship in this country have been changing, are in fact changing in real time? What is the long-term consequence, the long-term impact of that reality?
I think we're seeing it. You're right, a very long-term change here, where there was a long time when Americans, when they saw Israel, Israel was the way that Americans saw the Middle East, because there were a lot of Americans who migrated to Israel. There was a connection with the United States and the Jewish community because it was a haven for the Jews when they were kicked out of Germany and Europe. And now, of course, America is a much more diverse place. And there's a lot more Americans who know Arabs, know Palestinians, and who don't immediately think of Israel as kind of a little patch of America in the Middle East. And by the way, Israel's changed too. Israel was once, again, dominated by European Jews who had been expelled in the previous decades. And now it's much more dominated by Jews from North Africa, from the Middle East. And they are also less sympathetic to America. So the countries have been kind of drifting apart. And even before October 7th, you started to see that in the protests that were happening on the streets there. And you're right, the way that this is going to express itself in America is a kind of realignment, one of many realignments that's going to be part of the election to come.
Yeah. It seems to me, and this is my sentiment, I could be wrong about this, you may disagree, but it seems to me that Iran has handed Bibi Netanyahu an opportunity. The question is whether he will find a way to blow it. One could debate, and we don't have the time today, one could debate the response that Israel made the other day. I think all things considered, it was measured. Again, my word, maybe not yours. But it seems to me that Iran has given Bibi Netanyahu an opportunity. What's your view of that, number one? And number two, how do you think he's handling it or not?
Well, Bibi is a master of blowing opportunities. So you were nice enough to put a question mark about whether he's going to blow it. I think there's a very good chance of that, because he's also a master of saving his own hide.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity that he's been handed by Iran is a reset in this horrible, bloody war that his country has been waging in Gaza in retaliation for the October 7th attack. And he was just handed another enemy. He was handed an attack that he could counter, and that could be a kind of reset to that war, where he started to find that, remember, Israel's response was through its Arab neighbors who were its friends. And those neighbors are not pleased with what's going on in Gaza either. So it could have been a chance for him to say, all right, we can look at what we've done and maybe do some things to pay back the favor that was paid to us by Jordan, by the Saudis, by the Emiratis. And instead, what he seems to be doing is saying full speed ahead on the war that we were prosecuting in the manner that we were prosecuting it before. So I don't think we're going to see the change that we wanted. You called his response measured. I think there's a way to see it that way. Absolutely. Iran sent 300 drones and missiles, and Israel sent back, I don't know how many, but not nearly as many. An order of magnitude less. We're talking about less than a dozen. The big difference, of course, is that the Iranian ones didn't hit and the Israeli ones did. So I think in this round, one side threw a lot of punches and didn't succeed. The other one threw a few and hit them pretty much squarely on the mark. So the response was very interesting to watch, including by me in Tel Aviv at the time.
Yeah, and I would only say, let me be very clear, I would only say measured comparatively speaking, and that's my point, given the way that they have moved heretofore. That was measured in comparison to the way they behaved inside of Palestine, inside of Gaza. But I take your point loud and clear. No need to comment further on that, from my perspective at least. Your book, The Way of the Strangers, Encounters with the Islamic State, as I said earlier, gives us an insider's view of the Middle East. So let me ask you an inside question, which is the way Israelis are protesting inside their own country. What's happening right about now. It is often the case, as you well know, that we get one perspective in this country, particularly when the corporate media is owned by, 2 or 3 people now. We rarely get a chance to see news from a different perspective. And so give me your sense, or tell us how these protests, we know what the students are doing on campuses in this country. Take me inside of Israel and let me know what their protests are like.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was in the protests a couple of weeks ago. The protesters who are on the liberal, secular side, we'll just leave aside the question of the far left, peacenik side.
Mm-hmm.
Their main hope right now is just that they see the back of the current prime minister, Bibi Netanyahu. They see him as an impediment to any kind of reform, any kind of good governance, and any kind of wrapping up of the Gaza war, including the bringing home of the 130 odd outstanding Israeli hostages. So they're on the streets essentially saying, we think that you are responsible for this, Prime Minister, and we want you to step aside so that someone else, because it's not going to be you, can be the one to wrap all this up. That's the main thing that you see in the protests. I do want to stress one thing, though, which is that the United States feels like a nation that's been cut in two or three or even more than that. But you have no idea until you've seen what it's like in Israel. You find people in Israel who are living lives that are super secular, that are beach-loving lives of secular lives in places like Tel Aviv, and then you find people who are living lives by their own choice that are extremely religious, very conservative, sometimes very bellicose in their attitude toward the Palestinians and even other countries. In other parts of Israel. So it's really a split country. And I think we saw those splits even before the October 7th attacks. Now, of course, the stakes have just gone up and up and up. But yeah, the people who are probably most in the camp that you would be in, are the people who are most like what you find in the United States, are the ones who are saying Netanyahu is the impediment for going forward.
Yeah. It's amazing about this, Graham. I've not been to Israel as many times as you have. But I've been there a few times over the course of my life. This goes back decades now. When I was a kid working for Tom Bradley, the mayor here in Los Angeles, where this studio is housed. I've been there a few times, and on every trip I was there, I sensed and saw exactly what you described. There's always been this dichotomy, as it were, amongst the Israeli people about this ongoing war, because this is just the latest iteration. It's been going on for centuries, right? For decades, and it is fascinating to hear you say now, to describe now these different factions inside of Israel. And I saw these same factions decades ago on my very first trip. So that the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Except, one thing that has changed a lot is demographics. There was a whole generation of Israelis who were basically labor leftists. So they were on the side of an internationalist socialist left, and they ran the country, and they were mostly descended from Europeans. And now, even though they're being led by Netanyahu, who is descended from European Jewry, and he's on the right. Now that side of things is mostly coming from other places, and they're less interested in having a European style social democracy. They're more interested in having a strong Israel that's more religious than it has been in the past, and that maybe wants to, in some cases, in the very extreme right, wants to actually see Palestinians wiped off of their historical lands completely. So it's pretty shocking to watch that change over the course of the decades I've been going back.
Yep. Once again, to your text, The Way of the Strangers, Encounters with the Islamic State. What do you think that we Americans miss by only seeing this situation from the outside and not from the inside? And to some extent, there's no way we can see it on the inside because we ain't on the inside. It would help if many of us broadened the media sources that we read to get a more holistic view of what's happening, not just in the Middle East, but indeed around the world. That's another speech for another time. I'll get off my soapbox in that regard about how one source so many of us are in this country. That said, my question, what do we miss in this country by only seeing what we see from the outside and not from the inside?
I think, first of all, it's exactly the right question to ask. Is how can we understand this conflict better, even though we're not in it? And we're lucky enough not to be in Gaza right now with bombs raining down on us. We're also lucky enough not to be in Israel, in a country that lots of people think it shouldn't exist, and that's not a view that most people have about countries, that they should just stop and close up business. So I think that the first thing you need to do is to make sure that when you're consuming media about this, that you're looking for both sides. And for a long time, you couldn't get any real pro-Palestinian voice in the way that you can right now. And there is an understanding, as I mentioned, that students certainly have, but I think a lot of people who in the past wouldn't have it at all. They have a sense of what it might be like to be losing your home in a war, to being forced out. And that is, to say it's rough would be an understatement. I don't know a way to express what it's like to lose 10 members of your family in airstrikes in the last 6 months. Now, on the Israeli side, the attack that happened there is an attack that is unlike anything that most living Americans have ever seen. The October 7th attacks were against the Israeli peace-loving left. They were against the ones who wanted to live as close to Gaza as possible because they thought they could be friends with Palestinians. And so I think it's difficult for Americans likewise to understand what it might be like to be an Israeli, and who sees the people who are the most insistent that Israelis and Palestinians, that Arabs and Jews can live in peace, to see those people slaughtered before their eyes. So both sides have this tremendous challenge that they pose to the rest of the world, and trying to sympathize with what has happened to them and understand why why they have such strong views about what's going on in the Middle East right now.
Yep. Let me ask you this question, perhaps as the exit question. I got about 3 minutes to go. We shall see. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you do write for The Atlantic. And The Atlantic, like every other major news outlet, is covering this campaign and trying to figure out what it all means. I'm just glad that I have to spend a half hour talking about Donald Trump today. We'll do that maybe again tomorrow, but I'm taking a Trump hiatus today and talking about that. I mean, things are bad, but I'd rather talk about the Middle East than Donald Trump. It's bad. But we'll come back to Trump maybe tomorrow. The trial continues. But the media obviously is covering this campaign. You write for The Atlantic, as I mentioned a moment ago. And again, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I wonder what your sense is of what, if anything, that Joe Biden can or must do between now and November to not lose a complete swath of the American electorate over this particular issue.
It's interesting. Being in Israel, you meet some people who think, oh, Donald Trump was great for us. He was in favor of moving the embassy to Jerusalem. He was in favor of the Abraham Accords, which got us peace with UAE and and perhaps someday even with Saudi Arabia. And so I think that one thing that what some people expect is that Donald Trump is the candidate for Israel. And I'm not even sure that's the case anymore. Joe Biden, remember, has been active at the very, very forefront of American foreign policy for decades. And those include decades when Israel was, as I say, that the main way that the United States saw the Middle East. So I think we've got two candidates, and it's not clear at this point which of them is going to be, when you really look at it, more alienating to people who are concerned about the possibility of Palestinians living in peace and having a state of their own. It's really unclear which, if either of them, is going to be a satisfying candidate for someone who's looking at that as one of the major issues in deciding who to vote.
Mm-hmm. Here's the extra question. I lied. I got time for one more right quick here. What's your sense then, speaking of the American electorate, how significant, central or not, this issue or these issues, that is to say foreign policy, will be when they vote in November? I mean, I ask that because we're spending all of our time talking about this conflict, and we should, because it could, if run amok, lead to World War III. I get that. I'm not naive, neither are you. We're spending a lot of time on talk radio and beyond in this country talking about this issue. I'm not so sure it resonates with voters, though, if people are going to make decisions on who they vote for based on a foreign policy issue.
Yeah, I think there's some reasonable doubt about whether this is going to be the issue that makes people change their votes. I think just today there was a poll that came out asking people what they cared about most, and they were saying jobs, they were saying inflation, they were saying the usual things that concern people. And the Middle East, Israel, was way down at number 12 or so. And I think that's actually kind of a shame. We should be thinking about the world outside of us more, because of course people are dying and so forth, but also because these places, they have a way of coming back to us. I mean, you cannot just ignore Ukraine, you cannot just ignore Israel and Palestine, and then just hope they resolve themselves in a way that doesn't touch us. So I think we should be thinking about those as much as possible.
I think you're right. I couldn't agree more. But then again, we wouldn't be Americans, would we? If we thought about others and thought about the world and thought about our engagement, we wouldn't be Americans. I digress on that.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, we should be American, but we should be the best Americans we can be.
No,
that means thinking about others too.
I could not agree more. Of course, I was being tongue-in-cheek. You and I are on the same page. His name is Graeme Wood, staff writer for The Atlantic. His book is called The Way of the Strangers, Encounters with the Islamic State. Pleased to have had him on Tavis, Smiley. Graeme, good to have you on, and we'll talk to you soon.
It was a pleasure, Tavis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is meeting with college leaders amidst ongoing pro-Palestinian protests aiming to prevent escalation. Adams, who is black, emphasizes that schools like Columbia and NYU are for education, not managing volatile situations. He warns of outside agitators inciting violence, urging schools to tighten security and identify non-students on campus. President Biden is set to speak at the commencement ceremony for one of the country's top historically black colleges. Biden will speak at Morehouse College for the ceremony scheduled on Sunday, May 19th. Posts on social media have been calling for students at the college to stage a walkout in protest of Biden's support for Israel. Biden has reiterated support for the country in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war. Both Biden and former President Trump have been campaigning around Georgia to influence black voters in the state. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. Great news. Sunlux has the all-new Tesla Powerwall 3 in stock. It's ready and waiting for you when you go solar with Sunlux. Learn more at sunlux.com, sunlux.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Kawhi Leonard's return to the lineup last night was not enough to inspire a win for the Clippers against Dallas. The Clippers lost by 3. The best-of-7 playoff series is even at a game apiece. Luka Doncic had a game-high 32 points and 9 assists. The Clippers were fortunate to lose by only 3. They shot a season-low 36%. In his first game since March 31st, Kawhi played 35 minutes. He had 15 points and 7 rebounds. Kawhi's right knee seemed to hold up pretty well. The question is, will he be healthy for Game 3 Friday night in Dallas? Don't be surprised if Lakers coach Darvin Ham shakes up his starting lineup for Game 3 Thursday night against Denver. Rui Hachimura has been a non-factor in the first 2 games. Hachimura has made only 3 of 11 shots and has only 4 free throw attempts. For a guy playing 34 minutes a game, the Lakers need a lot more production from him. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's time for California Community College's Black Student Success Week. This week-long event, held April 22nd through the 26th, is an opportunity to focus on innovative approaches to ensuring Black and African American students succeed in their educational pursuits. Black Student Success Week 2024, building a better future together. The urgency is now. For more information, visit blackstudentsuccess.com. That's blkstudentsuccess.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities and sports figures, elected leaders and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Linking social justice and climate justice all year long. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Robert Half research indicates 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. Their recruiting professionals use proprietary AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today.
Hello, this is Dr. Rosa Milligan calling authors and business owners to register now for Black Writers on Tour plus Business and Tech Expo Saturday, April 27th, 10 to 3 p.m. at the Carson Community Center.
Authors, aspiring writers, learn how to write, publish, and sell your book. Business owners, let people know where you're at. Call 323-750-3592. It's a free event. You heard right, free. And there's something for everybody. Go to blackwritersontour.com and register today. 323-750-3592.
Literacy and technology is everybody's business. Black Writers on Tour, Saturday, April 27th, 10 to 3 p.m. Admission and parking is free. See you there, 323-750-3592. BlackWritersOnTour.com. Don't you miss it.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, and now Kamm Howard, international reparations activist, who I wanted to check in with about his ongoing work on this particular issue that so many of us are paying attention to in the country. Hard to believe that we are at the point we are now with all the progress we've made on this issue of reparations. As I say all the time, we realize that the nation is watching us here in California to see what we will do, and for that matter, those of us in California are watching to see what we will do in the coming days, weeks, and months. I digress on that for now. Kamm Howard, good to have you on this program, sir. How are you today?
I am great, Brother Tavis. Thank you so much, brother. It's an honor for you having me.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you for the time. Let me make the most of what we do have here. Let me just jump in by framing the conversation this way. Give me and the audience a better sense of your particular history in fighting for a reparations commission and why you think that would make a difference.
Sure. So I've been in the movement for about close to 20 years. Currently, I'm the executive director of Reparations United, but I also a commissioner with the African American Reparations Commission under the leadership of Dr. Ron Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
But I started my work with NCOBRA and quickly rose up to be the national male co-chair, like the 3 times to that position, and worked with Congressman Conyers closely with writing the revised version of the Reparations Commission bill in 2017. He submitted it. So we've been closely working with that. We believe that the commission, if sat and done correctly, will produce a master plan of redress for Black Americans. It will look at the periods of enslavement, the periods of Jim Crow segregation, and this new period, what I call neo-apartheid period that we live in, and an attempt to quantify all of the negative impact from these periods of crimes on current living Black Americans, and then craft proposals to address this ongoing impact. So what should come out of the commission is a master plan of redress, a master plan of repair for centuries of harms and crimes committed against our people.
Mm-hmm. When you said John Conyers, of course, I knew John Conyers well, and for that matter, we were both fraternity brothers. I always think of him whenever this reparations conversation jumps off, because he was there decades ago, way back when, trying to make this thing happen, as you astutely noted. Why do you think there have been so many headwinds, even now, when you look around the country at all the progress being made? I mean, even here in California, right near where you are in Evanston, Illinois. I mean, there are all kind of places we could point to where progress on this issue has been made. I grant you more at the local level than obviously the federal level, although California at the state level appears to be poised to do something about reparations. But why do you think there's been so many headwinds with regard to just establishing a federal reparations commission? Why the headwinds?
There's for the Republican Party, Democratic parties in this country, when it comes to the federal elections and who leads this country, the Republican Party have won the majority of the white vote in this country since probably 1952. I think the last Democrat that won was Truman. And if it wasn't for the Black vote during that time, since that time, there would never have been a Democratic president. And so what actually the challenges with the Democratic Party is they believe that they will lose too much of the white vote for them to win the federal election. And that's been a push. But what we see a change in the Democratic Party is that at the federal level, in the last Congress, 88% of federal elected Democratic Party officials supported H.R. 40 and S. 40, the bill in the Senate. So we see a tremendous shift in the party at the congressional level, at the state levels, as you talked about. The three largest cities in America, the governors of those cities have already signed legislative reparations commission bills, California, New York, and Illinois. And then the thousands of democratically elected local and state elected legislators all pushing reparations at this time. So we see the shift in the Democratic Party just haven't made its way to the president yet. And I think it's because he believes he will lose too much white vote. But we also have an answer for that as well at this time that we have to message to him.
Well, you can't teach me like that and not tell me what the answer is. So what is the answer to that, as you say?
Well, there was a 2019 Huffington Post poll that polled Democrats, polled all Americans, but the question was, do you oppose or support a reparations commission? And the Democrats that were polled, it was 80% that stated that they either unopposed or were in favor of of a reparations commission. Mm-hmm. Only 20% were opposed, and that was in 2019. We believe that number is much, much lower now, and that also our polling shows that if a reparations commission was established before the election, the president would get overwhelming support of black voters that would counter any small loss of white voters that he may lose if he submitted a reparations commission. But it's up to him to convince those conservative Democrats that this is something they have to do, have to accept if they want a victory in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, never mind the polling, although polling does matter, do you think that would make the difference? I mean, we have been seeing poll after study after survey that suggests that President Biden's black numbers are at best soft. My view is that when people have to make a choice, if the choice is Trump or Biden, black people are still going to go for Biden by and large. But that doesn't mean that Trump won't siphon something off. So my question is whether or not you think that his talking about addressing more publicly the issue of reparations could be the differentiator in this election for black voters.
Most definitely. Black voters are saying that, they're tired of the rhetoric. You got our back. We no longer want any rhetoric. We want something tangible, something concrete. Mm-hmm. We have hired someone to do a poll in Michigan, and asked simply the question if Biden was to establish a reparations commission before the election, are you more likely to come out and vote? Mm-hmm. And from our numbers, Biden would add about 150,000 more votes. So we see that, there is a tremendous need for him to do something radical. Yeah. And black voters are saying he has to do something radical. And also we have a company that have actually quantified the number of 2.9 million black voters who voted for Biden in the last election who totally disapprove of him. And he cannot win with those numbers. The only way he can reverse that, we're telling him, we're messaging him, is through a reparations commission before November. And he can reverse that defection as well as bring on new voters who didn't vote in 2020.
No, I hear your point, Cam. There is no doubt in my mind that Joe Biden secured a significant number of black votes when he promised during the campaign to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. That was a big deal. And to his credit, he kept his promise, and KBJ, as we all know, sits now on the U.S. Supreme Court. But I think a number of black voters, particularly African-American women, took him at his word and said, if this white guy is willing to put a sister on the U.S. Supreme Court, then maybe I'll consider voting for him. So there's no doubt, again, in my mind, that he picked up a lot of black support because of that promise. So I hear your point that if he were to say, I will establish a reparations commission, that might be all that a number of black voters would need. The flip side of that, which I want to ask you about when we come forward, is whether or not Joe Biden already believes he got the black vote in his pocket anyway. I ain't got to go that far. I mean, I done gave y'all a black vice president. I gave you a black Supreme Court justice. I got a black person on the Fed. I got a black person sitting for us at the UN, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now y'all Negroes want me to go out and say that? That's just a step too far to come out publicly and call for a reparations commission, which might cost me the election, particularly when I know and believe that y'all ain't going to vote for Donald Trump over me. If you're black, you got to vote for me. He got in trouble saying something like that, remember, a few years ago? We'll talk about that part when we come forward with Kamm Howard on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Hi, I'm Reverend Gerald, host of Urban Family Focus here on KBLA Talk 1580s on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. In an effort to help reduce the impact of hypertension in our community, Providence is offering free hypertension assessments. The first 30 people to visit KBLA1580.com and use the link or QR code to register will receive 2 tickets to the Amazing Grace Conservatory presentation of Aladdin, A Whole New World for Real, at the Crenshaw Performing Arts Center, May 25th and 26th. Go to KBLA1580.com right now and be one of the first 30 to register for your hypertension screening and receive 2 tickets to Aladdin, compliments of Providence and KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
If your Medi-Cal is ending, Cover California is here to help. Cover California is a service from the state that helps you get affordable health insurance. In many cases, at no cost to you, just like with Medi-Cal. We have quality health plans, and we'll help you every step of the way to get the one that works for you and your family. So, if you're no longer eligible for Medi-Cal, check out Cover California. We'll keep you covered. Learn more at coveredca.com.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in 1 wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Kamm Howard right now as we talk about his push, along with others, for a serious reparations commission. And his point of view, in case you just tuned in, is that if Joe Biden, as he did promising to put a black woman on the Supreme Court in the last campaign, were to come out and say in this campaign that I promise to establish a reparations commission, that would do the trick. And all this talk about these soft numbers in black America, that talk might dry up. Kamm believes if, in fact, the president would take that bold step. We shall see. That said, my point before the break a moment ago, Kamm, was that Joe Biden probably believes he has the black vote in his back pocket anyway. Every Democrat running for president always thinks that. Why should Joe Biden be any different?
Well, this election is different. You hear black voter after black voter after black voter, especially young black voters, saying, we want something. Our vote must be earned. We're tired of you taking our vote for granted. And again, that number that we have identified is 2.9 million, almost 3 million, which is 20% of the vote he got in 2000. He got 15 million black voters. If he only got 12 million, he definitely loses. So that's a gamble. That's a tremendous gamble, for him to take. We're saying that in order to ensure that those 3 million do not sit out, because most of them are saying they're going to sit out. A few are saying they're going to vote third party, and some are saying they're going to vote Trump. Mm-hmm. But the majority are saying they're going to just sit out the election in its entirety and not vote for anybody. And we're saying not only a promise, a promise is not going to change them. He needs to actually establish the Reparations Commission before the election in order to get those votes out.
Yeah.
So that's our message to the president. It must be before the election.
You mentioned that he has to earn the black vote. That actually is a project that you all are working on called Earn the Black Vote. Tell me quickly about that project.
Yes, the Earn the Black Vote project is a national campaign to secure a reparations commission from the president by executive order before the election. That's our goal. We have based that goal on 3 foundational truths. One is that the Democratic Party is totally dependent on the black vote. Again, they have not won an election since 1952 without the necessary votes that they got from our community. That's how powerful the black vote is. The second foundational truth is that we need something before the election to bring us out. That's what black voters are saying. And the third one is that we believe that the Reparations Commission will secure a democratic victory and also secure that tangible need that black voters are demanding. And so we base the campaign on that, and we're messaging the president about the power of the black vote. We're messaging him about the political will that already exists within his party. He's the only one who's not aligned with his party. Again, at the federal level, legislatures have 88% signed on to reparations bills. 3 states, largest states in the union, signed on to reparations commissions, and many state legislatures. So he's the only one out of step as far as an elected Democrat with this issue of reparations. And our third message is that this is an historical time in this country. It's not unlike Lincoln's need to save the Union. Biden, this talk about he must save the democracy. And so this is a historical moment, and he cannot allow a few white Democrats to interfere with him making the right decision.
No, I hear loud and clear your messaging and how you're targeting that message to the president. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Kamm Howard, I want to ask him a complete non sequitur. Well, maybe it's not a non sequitur. When we talk about his messaging to the president and to Democrats, my question is there a message to Republicans on the issue of reparations? And if so, what would that be? What is the message, the messaging for Republicans on the issue of reparations? And I heard Kamm use a phrase earlier that I've been noodling on since he mentioned it 20 minutes ago. Now I figure out how I want to probe it. And it's this phrase he used, his phrase, it's a Kamm Howard phrase, that we are living now in a neo-apartheid era, We'll unpack that when we come forward on Tavis Smile.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the AmeriCAN Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the AmeriCAN program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
I've got 3 minutes left, Kamm Howard. 3 minutes left here. Let me ask you a couple questions. One, what is the message, to the extent there is one, what is the message to Republicans on reparations this year?
So our messaging is targeted toward the power holders right now who can act right now. That is the president and the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the Republican side, it would be Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson can call the H.R. 40 bill to the floor at any time. You can do it tomorrow, and we can pass it and have it sent to the president to be signed into law. That's something he's not going to do. I don't think that's something that the Republicans are going to do. There's been no Republican who have signed on to the H.R. 40 bill in its 33 years of existence. So that's an issue. Reparations is an issue that Republicans are not even entertaining. It's a non-starter for Republicans in its totality. But Mike Johnson has the power. It's
a non-starter. But let me just play politics here. It's a non-starter, but strategically, it would be a brilliant move. If you're trying to siphon off black votes, I shouldn't say this on radio, but I'm saying here I am saying it anyway. you know where I'm going already, do you not, Kamm Howard?
Right.
If you're trying, I shouldn't say it on black radio, but I'm going to say it. If you're trying to siphon off black votes, and you could get a bill passed in the House to establish a reparations commission, you'd do two things. One, you would aid and abet Donald Trump in November, and number two, you'd put the Democrats on their heels. If you called for a vote on this, it would be strategically brilliant. Now, you're right. I'm going to put down the crack pipe now because I know they ain't going to do it. But it'd be brilliant strategically, Kamm.
It would, man. That's the message we're telling to black Republicans. You know, if you actually say you're for reparations and you're Republican, get them to do it. Or if you're really for reparations, you can't be a Republican. But if you are, message that to Mike Johnson, to the speaker.
My last question, 60 seconds left. I'll give it to you. When you use the phrase neo-apartheid era, I like it, but unpack it for me right quick.
So one of the definitions of apartheid is separate development. And you cannot have all the disparities that exist currently in America between black and whites if it wasn't for separate development. It doesn't look like apartheid backed by force that we felt at Jim Crow, but there's still enough separate development, enough disparities that indicate we're still in an apartheid system. Yep. Just different from the one we were in.
Nope. I receive it.
Coming out of enslavement.
I receive it. Glad you unpacked it for me. His name is Kamm Howard. He's been working for a long time, for a couple of decades now, on the issue of reparations. And he and others are calling for the president not just to promise, but to establish a reparations commission now, before November, and they believe that would do the trick to get him reelected because the black turnout would be significantly in his favor. My producers are reminding me that on Monday in our first hour, we'll be joined by Representative Jasmine Crockett the Texas Congresswoman who has introduced legislation to offer tax breaks as part of America's reparations. So we'll talk to Representative Crockett on this program on Monday. For now, we thank Kamm Howard. Kamm, all the best to you. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you, Tavis. And have your listeners go to earntheblackvote.net and they can find out more about the campaign.
There you go. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is meeting with college leaders amidst ongoing pro-Palestinian protests aiming to prevent escalation. Adams, who is black, emphasizes that schools like Columbia and NYU are for education, not managing volatile situations. He warns of outside agitators inciting violence, urging schools to tighten security and identify non-students on campus. President Biden is set to speak at the News, the Black Information Network.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp.